So guys, what we're going to be painting today is a Blood Angels Assault Marine Sergeant, because he's pretty ornate and he's pretty cool looking. So this is basically me going to be following sort of the steps that our House Blood Angel army has went through, only just maybe, kicking it up a little bit, just to make it look a bit more impressive. So under close, this is what we've got. You can see our Marine here with various different Blood Angel parts, and a standard Assault Marine jump pack that's been accentuated with a couple of Blood Angel wings. We have a set of Death Company legs, as you can see the little cross there, but we're actually going to try and ignore that as much as we can. And this guy also has a little combat shield from the regular Assault Marine set. So he should be quite interesting to paint. There's lots of steps to go through. So what we're going to be starting off with, or what should be normally started off with after our base coat is done, is a Gryphon Sepia wash. Now we're not going to do that just yet because I want to get as much down on the model before I waste time putting a wash down and then going away to let it dry. Now the base coat, the primer that we used is Army Painter Dragon Red Spray. A can of this. We have one can left out of the 6 that we had. So we've used 5 cans of 400 milliliters each on the entire Blood Angel army that we got in. It's been a wild time, I gotta tell you. I'm very sleep deprived. So the first steps we're going to do our black, because we've got a lot of black detail to put down. A lot of preparatory black as well for areas that need to be painted silver. So we're going to be putting black on them to define their panel lines and whatnot. We're then going to be doing the gold details. So we'll be doing the shining gold base with a burnished gold highlight. Once that is done, we're also going to be doing all the bleached bone areas on the purity sails, and basically anything else that requires the Gryphon wash on top of it. So there'll be Deneb stone put down first, followed by bleach bone, and then after all that is complete, bang, we put the sepia wash down and let it do its business. So first things first, we're going to start off with our black details. So take our Chaos Black first. We're using Army Painter's Hobby highlighting brush because it's a good size brush to do this sort of detail. So we'll just put some paint onto the brush and just damp it down and thin it a little bit. Should do the trick. And what we need to do is paint one shoulder pad black. So this shoulder guard here, his right arm, is going to have the black on it. We want to stay inside the lines of the shoulder guard's ridge as much as possible. So just take our time with that as much as possible. So that'll do the trick quite nicely. We have some preparatory black to do as well. Now what I mean by that is areas that are going to be painted silver need the black as the very base coat for that. So we have the straps basically for the jump pack, and we're also going to be doing the fingers on the power fist as well. Okay, what I'm also going to do is, we're going to thin down the black a little bit more and make what I would call a paint wash, and what a lot of the professionals would call a paint wash. And we're going to run it into the vents on the jump pack and the vents in his breather grill. Pretty much like that, just add a bit of definition to the vents themselves. And into the breather grill on the front of the helmet. So anywhere else that we would like black to be, well, we're going to flip the model upside down, hopefully in a manner that you're still going to be able to see it. And we're going to do inside the vents of the jump pack. As these will probably get a little bit of silver work to them in a later step. So that should pretty much do it for the black. I'll try and bring our guy back up in here into focus. So the next step along, I'm going to start doing gold. So the first thing we have to do is add some shining gold to all the parts that need the eventual highlight of burnished gold. So I'll get stuck into that. I'll find my shining gold. And again, we're just going to add a bit of water. Just stir it up a little bit, keeping it relatively thick, but not insanely so. We're also going to switch brushes. So instead of using the highlight brush, which we used before, if I can find one here for me, we're just going to be using Wargamer Detail Brush just to begin our gold. So the first bit of gold is going to be on the power fist here. And I've just realized I forgot to put black onto the power fist fingers, but that's okay. We can just paint them all silver and do a bada black wash over that. We're also going to do the rim around each of the blood drops on the shoulders, on the back of the jump pack, sorry. We'll move around to the front of the body. I'll do the skull on the top of his helmet, as well as basically the crown of little spikes. Oh, sorry, that's not a skull, it's a blood drop. So we'll just do the crown of spikes on the top. I'm going to move over to the other leg where there's a skull and crossbones. We'll just paint them in now as well. So at this stage, I'm going to clean my brush off, and I'm going to go home. Well, no, I'm not going to go home. Not yet. At this stage, I'm going to take some Deneb stone. I'm going to go over all the areas that need to be bleach bone, or the wings on the jump pack, which are going to be a different color, going to be more of a brighter white color. But Deneb stone is going to be a fairly good base for that to work up from. And they will also get the sepia wash treatment eventually as well. So we'll take our Deneb Stone, which is a foundation paint, which is marvellous. Definitely some of the best paints that GW have brought out, basically. We'll just start coating these wings now in our Deneb Stone. And these will look very striking once the model is complete, and will look very striking amongst the rest of the army when it's complete. Just work over the top of the wing. And I think that's basically got those wings. So I'm also going to do the one down on the base of the leg in the same manner. Okay, so with the wings done, we now need to move on and do the purity seals. So there's one on the inside of this leg at the bottom, if I can get it into focus. There we are. So that's what our marine is standing like at the minute. We'll give that all that paint a few moments to dry properly. And once that's all dry properly, I then have to add bleach bone to the Deneb Stone areas, or possibly not at all. Possibly we might just skip on to white, but we'll do bleach bone on the purity seals at least, and then we'll go on and we'll do the Gryphon Sepia wash. So with all that paint now settled down, we're 2 more steps before we start to do our sepia wash. Now the first thing we're going to do is add bleach bone to the purity seals. Then the second step is going to be to highlight the gold before we add the sepia wash down. So we're going to take our bleach bone first, and we're going to add that to the purity seals. And we're going to be using Warhammer or Wargamer detail brush. So we'll just add some water to it and just mix it a little bit, just to water it down. Okay, so we'll get started with the first of the purity seals here, this one on the inside of the leg. Try and give it a good even coat. So that should do for the purity seals. We'll then wash the brush off and do our gold details, do our highlighting on the gold. So for this we're using burnished gold, Games Workshop burnished gold. Again, we're just going to keep using the detail brush for this. And the first thing, we're just going to tidy up our winged skull. And just give it a very thin coat of the burnished gold all over it. We'll then move around to the helmet here. And what we're going to do on it is just the front of the spikes. Just there. Just to highlight them a little. And do a little dab on each of the top of the two skull bits, or the top of the two crossbones. Then we'll work around to here, to this winged skull. Just add some gold just to there, and just try and give it a bit more of an overbrush than an actual full coat of paint, which we're just going to touch on the forehead with. Work down to the front and do around the teeth. And that should be enough for that. So now our model is pretty much completely set for the Gryphon Sepia wash. So what we'll do is we'll just wash our brush off. We'll let this stuff dry for a few moments. Once that's dried, we'll then get into the sepia wash. So with all the paint now settled, our next step is going to be to add the Gryphon Sepia wash. So we'll take our Gryphon Sepia, and we'll take a large brush, in this case the Wargamer Monster brush, which is, you know, it's going to do the job, definitely. Certainly a big enough brush. Now for the house army that we have, the actual Blood Angel house army, this is a model from it. What we actually did was airbrush the washes on, but that was because we had so many models to do. But we will actually show you some airbrush techniques using washes and whatnot in another video. So we'll now just slap our Gryphon Sepia on, and we can afford to be merciless, as Gryphon Sepia is a relatively subtle wash when it actually dries in. Layer it on as thick as we want. Just work it in as fast as we can here. We'll work it up onto the wings as well. We'll try and not use too much on the wing. Okay, so now our Gryphon Sepia wash is down. It looks a little thick in places, but once that dries, that'll give good shading to the parts. So what we're going to have to do now is back away for a while, have a cup of coffee, have a cup of tea, in my case incredibly strong coffee, and when we come back, this stuff should be dry, and then we can get into some proper detail work. So with the wash mostly dry, we're happy enough now to basically move on. What we're going to be doing now is the armour joints, so the joints around the hips and joints around the back of the knees respectively. We're going to be coating these in a Codex Grey. Once the Codex Grey is down and dried, we'll be putting a Bad Ab black wash over that. Now that also applies for the chest eagle, which is just about visible from underneath those four big black straps. That will also get the same treatment with the Codex Grey. So I say we get stuck into that now. As soon as I find my Codex Grey, let's shimmy everything else out of the way. I will take my Hobby Precise detail brush, and then we will start to apply the Codex Grey to the armour joints basically. Now, of course, there's plenty of other ways that you can do this. You could even just apply a black wash to the armour joints just to make them a bit duller. But we really want to draw attention to these because that helps break up the brightness of the red colour scheme and really defines the areas where the body armour actually is. So we just have to try and get in to this area as close as we can. We'll probably touch a bit of wash that's probably not dried further into that recess in the shoulder there, but so don't worry about getting onto the black too much with that. There will be subsequent steps to correct all that once we start adding the silver to those areas. My helping hand is starting to become a little loose again, so brilliant. So just bring that round to the back of that joint, give that a good coat. So that's pretty much it for that part anyway, and we're going to throw the model all around us now. So in the meantime, we're going to take some silver paint and we're going to do the 4 straps on that go to the jump pack. So what we need to do with those first is take some bolt gun metal. Just going to continue using my Precise detail brush. So I just get some onto the brush. We'll get in here and we'll start to add the silver. So try and leave a little bit of gap, a little bit of the black between the segments of the strap. That way we've got a really nice defined shape and a defined pattern. Okay, so with that done, we're also going to go and pay a bit of attention to the Power Fist. We're just going to give it a good liberal coat of the bolt gun metal, and from there we'll probably add a Bad Ab black wash to it, and then as a final step we'll probably highlight it with some chainmail. So Okay, so that's enough silver on that part of the model. Now, is there anywhere else we want silver at the minute? I think we want it around the underside of the backpack again. Around the vents here. I can get these into a good shot for you. We're probably just going to pick out the higher parts on this. So something along the lines of that. Pretty much no more than that, just to define it a little bit, so I can get the rest of the other side into shot as well. So just the area along the larger vent, or the larger exhaust. And that will pretty much do that. Okay then. So at this stage, I'm also going to start and work on the eyes. What we're going to do with that is give a little bit, each lens, a little slit of white paint, skull white paint. As fine a line of it as possible. Still using the precise detail brush at this stage. And we just need, if I maybe actually just change my brush at this stage, because I think that is still a bit too big. I'm going to take my insane detail brush and try and get the effect that I'm searching for. Still too much paint on the brush. So very gently. Which may be a bit more difficult as it's a little harder to reach. So pretty much that. He does look a little off with his eyes, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Our next step's actually going to be pretty much to cover all that again. So I'm going to wash this brush off, and then the next thing I'm going to do is start to highlight the wings that are on the jump pack and on the leg. So again, we're still going to use white. In this case, I'm now going to be using the Wargamer Regiment brush, which has a rather broad end on it. And I'm going to basically what's called overbrush. Overbrush is almost like a dry brush, but you don't remove as much paint from it. And when we drag it along, it'll just start to pick out the higher details without being a sort of dusty effect. So just with the side of the brush, just stroking it over the part. Because all in all, we do want this to look relatively clean. Just vertical marks, vertical strokes of the brush. And all that will do will just pick out some higher detail. So it pays to really pay attention to this one as you're using an overbrush. But the effect can be quite nice, and it can be quite striking from a distance. So this is really what we're looking for, something that looks good on the table and is more than playable, basically. Okay, so with that done, time to tidy the brush up again. We're now going to add our Bada Black wash to the armor joints, and then we're going to add another wash, Thoraca Green, to the actual eye lenses, which will finally give us some color on those. So first we'll take the Bada Black. So we'll start actually with the chest eagle. Just work some wash into there. And while we're at it, we'll also go over the metal that we've done, just to dull it a little bit, and just define the detail we may have lost through painting it. Do the other side of the chest eagle. Probably afford to put a bit more into there. So just give it a good liberal coat. Maybe too much wash there. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We'll add a little bit of black wash maybe to these ridges in the middle of the backpack, just into here. Just add a bit more sense of depth to that part. And let me see, around the front, I think we're okay. So we have plenty to get on with there. And maybe just add a little bit more wash to that side, maybe take a wee bit more away. So our guy's coming on. Wash the brush off again, and now we'll take our Thoraca Green and add that to the eye lenses. So we'll use a smaller brush, we'll use a precise detail brush to apply the green wash. So all we need to do for the eye lenses is just to reach in with the Thoraca Green. And plop. When that dries, that'll have a nice little detail to it, just a nice little definition of the eyes. And same on this other side. So when those are dry, that'll look pretty good to me. Right, we'll also start highlighting the armor a little bit. As it's had the Gryphon Sepia wash, it's pretty dull. So while we're waiting for other steps to dry, we're going to take some blood red, and we're just going to do a bit of highlighting here and there. Still using precise detail brush. We'll just run over any high areas on the model that we'd like a bit more light to be sort of showing off. So along the tops of the jump packs, like so, and just down the sides. This will help the model really pop when you look at it on the table. It'll define some really nice, define the shape basically more than anything. And don't go too much overboard. So maybe along the power fist here as well, just along the top of the power fist. It's a rather heavy line there. Wipe some of that away and make it a little bit smaller. So, and along the cheek vents on the side of the helmet, we'd like to get as much definition onto the helmet as we could. So get a little line there. And a little curved line this way up there, and also up the side of the breather mask. Being very careful not to touch the green wash that we've just put into the eyes. And also along top of the eye and the helmet there. So we really want to do more definition to the areas that are more exposed to light. So we'll just have a little play around and pick out some areas, like on the knee pad over here. When this dries, there won't be too much of a color change, but it will be noticeable enough. A small change in gradient that will actually make it a bit more visible. So along the top of the boot as well. And maybe a little bit around the other foot. We also want to work around this shoulder guard, which is sort of blending in, the edge of it is blending in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just take blood red and just fill that line a little bit. Just like so. And probably same on the other one. Probably just do a little bit of a defining edge on it instead of completely filling it. So something like that. Further around onto the shield. Well, the shield's pretty bland as well, so we'll do an edge along the top of it. And basically capture anywhere that would have more light than other parts of the model. So say for example that entire flat piece there. Around the top of that curve. Just do a line of red up there as well. So also while we're at it, at this point, we're going to fill in those purity seals with the blood red. So just take a drop of the blood red and just add it in. Put it down nice and heavy so that it does stand out. I know a lot of people would paint it green or something like that, but green purity seals look naff, I think. That's just my opinion. And if you're going to do Blood Angels similar to this, you can afford to put a heavier wash of sepia on to dull the armor and then bring it back with highlights. Okay, so also, while we're at it, we're also going to paint the blood drops on the shoulders. Again, just with pure, straight blood red. Which will help them stand out. Like so. We also have a few little bits and pieces that are dangling from his leg here, which also represents a sort of blood drop. So again, just paint it in blood red. Okay, this is also the time where we can tidy up areas like this by adding a highlight of blood red to the jump pack. So can just fill that area out and just work across the shape of the curve, like so. So just a line of red, basically, just to define that, and also run some red down the back of this shield here as well. And basically anywhere else we think light should be hitting a bit stronger. So again, down this side of the vent and across the top. So there's our Marine Sergeant so far. Pretty much finished. We just have, let's say, a couple more steps to do. Well, we have one more blood red purity seal down there I've just spotted, which I totally forgot about, so my bad there. Just fill that in now. There. So with a bit more definition on the model, a bit of shading, a bit of highlighting and whatnot, excuse me, we're now going to take some chainmail and we're going to highlight the metal parts. So still using our precise detail brush, we're going to add little highlights to our metal. So say for example just there and there, a little bit on the top of the skull, just to give them a bit more definition, and just a couple down there just to catch the light a little. Like so. So not too much. Same on the power fist. I'm going to do a little stripe on each finger, just on the top edge of each finger. And then also a little line across the knuckle. And basically anywhere else we can think, so say along here. So we have a line there, and we're going to carry that line on there. And there. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is just add some text to the purity seals. So we need our Insane Detail brush once again, and we need some Chaos Black. So with our Chaos Black, kept relatively thick, we're going to do the purity seals around here on the combat shield. And for these, it's just a matter of dotting and lining, a bit more dotty and whatnot, and then work up this one as well, just behind it. And then do the lower ones. Really just sort of dabbing and dragging the brush just to make lines that aren't uniform, basically. That's the key to doing the purity seals. So say from there. Again, the lines don't terribly matter in what direction they're going, but so long as you're trying to keep them not from becoming uniform. That's a bit blotchy, but at least we have something down there. So guys, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you've picked up on a couple of things. Hopefully you like the color scheme. Hey, if you don't, drop it in the comments below. We're always happy to hear what you think. So yeah guys, thanks very much for watching. Put your comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.